When our volunteers knock doors, whether it be here in Seattle or over the water in Bellevue, or if we go south, what's the message?
The first thing that I always recommend to people when they're knocking on doors is to. There's a story for each one of those.
That's right. There is actually
signs up there.
There
right?
is a story for each one, and good restaurants, kind people, man.
Yeah.
So you've been touring around King County, you said, everywhere.
Everywhere. Everywhere.
What is it? What is that like? Is it like vastly different people in different corners of the county?
Very.
Yeah.
We have a huge county. 2.3 million people live in King County.
Okay.
39 cities and unincorporated areas.
Yeah.
We have cities. We have farms.
Yes.
We have suburbs. We have predominantly black and brown and immigrant communities.
Yeah.
We have predominantly white communities. We have Asian communities in the CID. But one thing that's really, really surprising is how similar everybody's concerns are.
Okay.
Even though the people are different.
Yeah, that's one thing that I appreciate about travel.
Yeah.
Is it's the same thing everywhere.
Yep.
Too around the country.
Absolutely.
It's school for my kids.
100%.
It's food on the table.
Yep.
Price of goods, that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
It's how secure is my job.
Absolutely.
These are the things that that unify us actually. Right?
Absolutely. That's why it feels like when you watch the news that everybody's so divided, everybody's so different.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, the stories I hear in South Seattle or downtown or Carnation, a farm town, or deep South King County, people want to feel safe.
Yeah.
They want to be able to afford stuff like their rent and their food, like you said.
Yep.
They want their kids to get a good education.
Okay, we're gonna go here.
It's the basics.
Down there? Is it right here? Let's go across that way. Yeah, it's familiar stuff, and that's why for you, I guess, policy. It's not this thing that is a puzzle you got to put together. It's actually more simple than people make it out to be.
Definitely, the way to talk about these issues is simple. The solutions are hard because we face budget shortfalls.
Yeah.
We have different ideas of what needs to be done.
Right.
We have competing public interests. If you do too much of one thing, that harms another interest.
Yes, that's right.
So stuff is really complicated, and stuff oftentimes is out of the control of the government that I'm running for.
Right.
With what President Trump is doing right now, mass deportations and travel bans and gutting Medicaid and SNAP and food assistance.
Yeah.
That's all really, really challenging stuff. So it's not really about one elected official or one level of government. The power is in how can we all rally together and use our collective power to make change.
Okay, so you brought up the big guy. Which is like he's wrapped around all political conversations regardless of where you're running.
Absolutely.
One of the things I say nowadays is that it used to be that all politics is local.
Yeah.
And what I say now is all local politics are national.
Facts.
Right? Everyone running for office has to talk about who they are in the context of that guy.
Yep.
Who's running the news cycle.
Definitely.
And whose policies are going to impact you and impact the decisions that you have to make. And if not that, the perceptions.
Yep.
The perceptions of those decisions.
Definitely.
So, hold on, we'll pause for a second. Okay. All right. So, let's get back to national politics. We're taping this on the eve of No King's Day. A lot of people are about to hit the streets around the country, but specifically here in Seattle. We've seen what's going on in Los Angeles. The military's in the streets in Los Angeles, the National Guard, Marines, and we heard a day or two ago that Seattle is one of 5 cities where Trump is going to send specialized ICE agents. So Seattle is like right in the crosshairs here. As a leader who people look towards, like, what is your message to the people of Seattle as they mobilize tomorrow?
First, we have to acknowledge people's fears and anxiety right now.
100%.
I've never seen the national mood be like it is right now. I've lived through post 9/11 world, 2020 pandemic, and police violence movements. I don't think I've felt our national mood be this tense and anxious, because it's a lot of stuff piled up on each other. You know, we have all of the economic anxieties that already existed even before Trump's second term. Then you have the mass deportations, the travel bans, the massive, unprecedented levels of federal cuts to our social safety nets that we're relying on. And then you have all the conflicts around the world that feel like they're escalating. Everybody feels like we're on the doorsteps of World War III. And it feels like with President Trump activating National Guard and letting federal troops put their boots down on the soils of our cities, people are feeling like, is there Civil War type of vibes going on? So people are very anxious, and it's okay to acknowledge that anxiety and tell them that we as elected officials will absolutely join you in these protests, will join you in the lawsuits, will join you in the advocacy, because what's happening is unacceptable, and it absolutely is tearing families apart and harming our economy and making life harder in general. And at the same time, I just left a press conference with the governor and Congresswoman Jayapal, and our message is, we're with you, we'll be at the protest, and it's really important that we protest peacefully.
Yes.
Because protest is absolutely an expression of our anger, and it's also an expression of our responsibility to be caretakers of our community. We have to be caretakers of our immigrant communities, of our trans communities, of our black and brown neighbors, of our working class families who are going to be struggling in this economy, and caretakers of the neighborhoods where we're actually going to be protesting. It doesn't help stop President Trump if we're not taking care of our small businesses and our local neighborhoods and making sure that we're treating each other with kindness while we're protesting. So
and it also like blocks our message.
Absolutely,
does. We're a big tent party.
Yep.
On the left, and there's a lot of different issues.
Yep.
There's more people and more distinct kind of viewpoints. And so in order to understand it, like, you've got to make room for all kinds of people's voices. If there's violence, it hides all, it masks it. It makes it more difficult to understand our message if there's violence.
And there are, like every protest, there are going to be bad actors, provocateurs, even people who are aligned with President Trump's vision and want our protests to look like we're the ones promoting violence and chaos. They'll be out there. I would say don't fall for the bait. Let's keep our eyes on our mission of protecting our communities.
Eyes on the prize.
Eyes on the prize.
Okay, so one of the things that needs to be demystified is, what is your current role and what are you running for? Like, what is the difference, man? People like King County
Council to King County Executive.
What does that mean? You know, all this talk about what's going on nationally. Like, what would be your involvement in that today versus the new role?
It's a great question, because funny enough, the position I'm running for is the single highest and most powerful local position in the entire Pacific Northwest.
Get out of here.
It is.
What?
King County Executive is the person that leads the entire government of King County. Okay. And King County government has 18,000 employees. So the King County Executive would be the boss of 18,000 employees.
Whoa.
Covering a
What are some cities? So I know Seattle's in there.
Seattle, Bellevue, Federal Way, Shoreline, Tukwila, Carnation, Vashon Island, 39 cities in King County, 2.3 million people in this region. 2.3 million people means that King County is actually bigger than 13 states in the United States.
Hey, all right.
So the King County Executive is like being the governor of a small state.
Okay, this is good. I like this. Okay, now what is the difference between the role you're going for and what you do today?
Right now I'm on the King County Council and I'm running for King County Executive. You can think of that like a Seattle City Council member running for mayor.
Got it.
So the Seattle City Council and the mayor, they work with each other right now. One is the legislative branch, 9 people in the legislative branch who make budget and policy decisions. And then the mayor is the implementer of those policy decisions, responsible for leading all of the different executive branch departments that actually do the stuff that government's known for.
Got it.
So the executive branch of any level of government are the ones who are on the ground actually doing stuff. So if you see a government worker filling a pothole, that's the executive branch. Fixing your city lights, that's the executive branch. The police officer who is doing service calls, that's the executive branch.
Okay.
And then the council are just the people who are kind of like the board of directors. We make the high level policy decisions. And then the mayor or the King County executive is like the CEO of the company.
Okay, so when it comes down to the state of Washington taking action against the administration, what role does the county play in that? Is that like, you know, the AG brings everyone together and says, let's talk about what your individual needs are. I'm about to make these moves. I'd like some input. Is that how that goes?
Yeah, so first it's important to know that no local government has the authority to trump what the president is doing.
Okay. This is important though. No, that's good. But that's important though, because some people will come and be like, Girmay, you're not doing enough. You're like, bro, I can't.
If the president or Congress says we are doing this thing, cities and local governments can't be like, we're not doing that thing. We could, but we'll get sued and whatever. The second important thing to know is that there is a law in Washington State called Keep Washington Working.
Yes, talk about that.
And it basically says local governments like King County or Seattle's government, although we don't do the opposite of what the federal government says, we do not have to facilitate their actions. We do not have to coordinate with them. So if ICE is coming in to King County and saying, we're going to round up immigrants, give them to us. King County, we don't have to use our sheriff's deputies to arrest people on immigration charges. We don't have to use our King County jails to hold people on immigration charges. We don't have to use our King County software systems to divulge personally identifiable information of people to ICE. So the law is literally, we do not have to coordinate with these unjust actions.
Okay, this is like when I tell people that there's actually three ways that you can drive. You can do foot on the gas, foot on the brake. You can also do foot off the gas.
Exactly.
And that's what you're saying.
You can do foot off the gas.
You can decide to just say, we're not going to help you do what you're doing. Okay.
And then
so
there's more though.
Sanctuary county kind of is
a little bit. I think that term you have to be careful with because sometimes people think sanctuary means if I come to Seattle or King County, then I'll be free from the federal government's jurisdiction. That's not true. The federal, as you see, they're going to bring military personnel. They're going to bring ICE. I don't want to mislead people about that.
That's good. I'm glad we covered that.
You won't have your King County executive, if I win this race, coming out and saying, we're locking people up for immigration charges. Come on, ICE, you're going to...
Got it.
We won't do that.
Good.
The other thing we can do, we can get our foot off the gas, but there is a way we can put our foot on the gas, and that is suing the federal government.
Okay.
So we can form coalitions with counties and cities around the country and sue the federal government for these unjust actions, which we are doing.
Okay.
So we have 3 or 4 lawsuits happening right now. We also know that our Attorney General is suing the lights out of the Trump administration. I think he's on his, last time I checked, 25th lawsuit in just his 6th month as Attorney General.
Shout out to
Nick Brown.
Shout out to Nick. Well done, sir. Keep it up.
And so I would want us to continue suing because suing can work. One of the things that the Trump administration has been doing is in the contracts that we have to sign to get federal dollars, they're trying to make us take loyalty oaths.
Yeah, there's all these little additions.
Little provisions in their contract. Absolutely.
Attached to money, you've got to promise these
strings
things.
Attached to their money.
Yeah, that's
If we give you money, you have to get rid of all your DEI programs.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff they're doing. So we're suing based on those unjust contract terms.
Yeah.
And we've been successful so far in getting some temporary restraining orders.
Okay, are you doing that in cooperation, like individually or in cooperation with other counties? Like
in cooperation with other counties. Cool. I think that makes us stronger. We have to keep doing that.
It does. Okay. All right. So this is the stuff that's connected to what the federal government's doing today. You didn't start running for office to fight Trump. You started running for office because you've got a dream for something else, man. You've got a vision for the future of the people of the city, this county, the state, and it goes beyond the bullshit that they're pushing out on us. Tell us, like, succinctly about that dream, and then we can go deeper into it.
Yeah, the dream is one that I've already lived.
Okay.
You know, my family came to the U.S. as refugees when I was 3 years old.
Okay.
We came here from Sudan after fleeing civil war in Ethiopia, and this region, King County, gave us the tools that we needed to rebuild our lives in our lowest moments. We got affordable public housing, good public schools, social safety nets, jobs, and those things that this region provided us allowed me and my family to go from low-income housing projects in South Seattle, Rainier Vista, New Holly, low-income places in Skyway, even experiencing homelessness at one point. And because of those programs that provided us a ladder to climb up, I was able to graduate from high school, go to college, go to law school, work at the Obama White House, start my own youth education nonprofit, work at law firms, and now represent that same community as the chair of the King County Council. And that's the story that I want to be available to everyone. But that story is literally not possible now. And before I started running for office, I would have said that story is unlikely and difficult. And now, because of the Trump administration, I have to say that story is literally impossible.
Impossible.
Because
so
he has
sad,
banned people from the country that I came from and many others from even entering the country in the first place. So the story ends before it's even begun. And that's a really sad place to be in.
Tell me, because that just happened.
That just happened, yeah.
And the travel ban is what he did last time he was in office.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, so if someone would have asked what was Trump going to do, travel ban would have been on the list. You probably thought it was coming. But when he did it, man, how did it feel like in that moment?
Oh, man. When he did it the first time, it was scary and devastating. And you kind of just, in his first administration, he was doing so many things that are so unprecedented and you've never heard. It was kind of like a cultural shock. I feel like a lot more people were rising up to resist it. One of the things that's a little bit scary is that this second time around with the travel bans, the response, there's still been a lot of response and a lot of people doing good work, but it feels like it hasn't hit the same way. You know what I mean?
There's
like,
less shock.
There's less shock because he's done so many things that are so shocking that we're starting to become desensitized to it. And that's really scary because it shows you that he is testing the waters and pushing the limits so that the next authoritarian president that comes in is going to have a much easier time than he even did. So I think it's really important that we all stand up and protest and march and resist because we cannot normalize this.
Okay, so you see that announcement and you got your head down working on this dream. What are some of the policies that you want to implement to help realize that or start us on the path to realizing it? Because it's a long-term thing. Like you've got to make the case and then you've got to push for these policies. You got to get funding for them, and then you start working on it. And we're talking about some of these things are like years long back. So what's the beginning of this?
So I would divide up my answer in terms of the substantive policies that we need to fight for, and then the approach we need to take. In terms of the policies, we need more affordable housing. We need comprehensive public safety strategies to get rid of things like gun violence. We need mental health and addiction support systems because those things are ravaging our communities. We need to protect our environment. And by our environment, I mean helping to remove carbon from the air so that we don't continue to have escalating natural disasters, but also environmental justice so that communities aren't living in highways and near airports and near pollution that's creating disproportional rates of asthma and other things like that. And those are all things that can be possible if we take the right approaches. So when it comes to approach, my approach is focusing on the communities who are most impacted by all of these issues, co-designing solutions with them, letting them know that King County government even exists in the first place because a lot of the conversations I tend to have are, I tell people I'm running for King County executive and they're like, what the hell is that? And I don't blame communities for that. I blame King County for that because you got 18,000 employees, a $10 billion budget. We need to do a much better job of integrating our services on the ground with communities. I want us to be knocking on doors of low-income apartment complexes. I want us to be partnering up with knocking on doors. I want us to be doing more community service events where we bring a lot of people out saying, I'm your representative, these are your government workers, now let's work together to do government neighborhood cleanups and community outreach, encampment outreach to help our unhoused neighbors. I want to make sure that we're bringing people together to solve problems instead of continuing this divisive political discourse that's really making it hard for us to solve problems. And you're going to like this one because you brought it up before. I want our approach to be the coalition of building and not the coalition of bureaucracy.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that
because this is kind of a, I wouldn't say it's a new approach to government.
It is. It's kind of new.
It's kind of new, but it's gotten heightened attention now. Yeah. This abundance thought, a way of thinking about building, and especially in blue places.
Yeah, definitely.
Because so much of, I'd say maybe protectionism, some of the good intentions from early on in the environmental push have now been weaponized against some of these marginalized communities.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is kind of, you're talking about centering them, but if you use the abundance approach with the centering of some of these marginalized communities, what do we get?
Yeah, for those who haven't seen this heightened political discourse around this topic, there was a book called Abundance that was written by Ezra Klein recently. Yep. I wouldn't say he started the movement. We've been moving in this direction for a long time, but the gist of it is that in progressive West Coast cities like Seattle, or cities in California or Portland or wherever, we have a lot of well-intentioned regulations that are intended to protect our environment, our communities, and what that means is we have a lot of processes. We have a lot of regulations around climate. We have a lot of steps people have to take if they want to build stuff.
Yeah.
And if you look at each of those regulations one-on-one, individually, they're all good things. Like, it's good to protect our environment. It's good to have women and minority-owned business contracting standards. It's good to have community input on how we build buildings. But in the totality, when you add up all of those processes and all those things together, what you get is overburdensome and costly regulations that make it nearly impossible to build the future that we want.
Yeah.
We want to create a world where we're building the number of homes that we need for people to live in. We want to create a world where we're building public transportation that's reliable and fast quickly, so that people can get from point A to point B, whether that's their jobs or the grocery stores. We want to create a world where we can site childcare facilities efficiently so that workers can leave their kids somewhere safe when they go to work. And that means being very thoughtful about the number of costs that we're tacking on to that process. And a lot of studies have shown that in West Coast cities, even if you have the amount of money to build things, it takes decades to build it. Oh, yeah. It takes much more money. We're creating inflation and delay, and basically we're not able to build the world that we want if we keep doing things the way that we want to do it. So I propose that we adopt that liberation and abundance mindset where we say, let's look at the outcomes. Are the regulations that we're putting in producing the outcomes of more homes for marginalized communities, of more business opportunities for women and people of color, of more childcare facilities, of more homes for low-income people? Or are they doing the opposite and limiting the supply of the things that we need? And oftentimes they're limiting, so we got to do a reset.
Okay. I like that a lot. And look up abundance, do some research on it. It's worth it because that's the future of governing in Seattle. I think a lot of folks are big fans of that movement. Okay, so let me bring down to the tactical level as we close up here. We're gonna knock doors on you for you. We're gonna knock doors for you, and we're gonna vote for you. I'm voting for you. Okay, all right. When our volunteers knock doors, whether it be here in Seattle or over the water in Bellevue, or if we go south, what's the message? Like, what's the thing? What do you think is the thing that is the most easy to understand about you as a candidate, about what you're going to do? What do you want our folks to say when we knock on a door and somebody answers?
The first thing that I always recommend to people when they're knocking on doors is to take a second to think about what is your real honest answer about what brought you out today.
That's good. That's
really
good.
Think about
personalize it, right?
Personalize it, because a lot of people think that if I go knock on doors, I have to go become a policy expert. I got to look at this candidate's website.
They get nervous.
I got to do. Yeah. I do not want you to be a policy expert when you're knocking on doors.
Right.
We can get to that, and I will get to that in the answer. But the first thing is really ask yourself, why am I here? And use the honest answer, because the honest answer is often not like, I reviewed Girmay's policy statements and his 10-point plan is the thing that...
I spent 30 minutes with him. They told me all about everything to say.
The honest answer is often somebody that I really trust, trust Girmay, and that was enough for me. And I trust this person in my life because they've never led me astray. And I think that there is a lot of urgency in electing people that we can trust. That's an okay answer.
That's good.
The honest answer is often, you know what? I'm actually just scared about the state of the world right now, and I want to support somebody who is willing to take charge and create change. And I see this person who looks like me, who comes from a background like mine, who's going to fight for people like me, and that's what brought me out here. It is okay to lead with those value statements and be very honest. And I encourage people to do that. So my first answer to answer your question is, I can't tell you what brought those people out. They should tell themselves what brought them out.
I love that.
Second, if you want a concise answer of why Girmay, you can say that Girmay is the candidate who has proximity to the communities who are most impacted by all of the challenges that we're trying to solve for, from the public safety crisis to the housing crisis to the mental health crisis to the impacts of the Trump administration as a refugee. And he has a track record of delivering for those communities on housing, on healthcare, and on pushing back on unjust policies. You can look at his track record at electgirmay.com, and I hope that he can earn your support because he's earned mine.
Ooh,
Something
I
as
like it.
simple
I
as
like
that,
it.
you know what I
I
mean?
like
Yeah.
it, man. That's great. Okay, let's do it. Let's hit the doors, y'all. Let's go.
Appreciate it.
Good, man. Started getting hot.
I know, my face. And I was all squid.
I was looking at him.